Welcome to The Growth Switch, the podcast where we dive into the strategies, struggles, and breakthroughs of bold business leaders. I'm your host, Jules Fox, growth strategist and lead content creator at Aries Media. I'm here to uncover how today's top brands are scaling, overcoming challenges, and unlocking sustainable success. For those of you just tuning in, Aries Media helps grow successful brands with comprehensive, hands-on support for sales, business development, and performance marketing. Drop growth into the comments if you want to learn how to do that. Now, today, we are lucky enough to have a really wonderful and unique guest, Daniel Vanclout. He's the CEO of Olympia.Work. It's a tech-forward recruiting platform that's redefining how top-tier software engineers and Gen AI talent are hired, which is an incredibly important topic in most of today's hiring environments. Drawing from years of experience working for both Meta and Google, where he led hiring for search, YouTube, and AR and VR research, he's built Olympia to filter the signal from the noise. So excited to ask you some questions. Daniel, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Okay. So, you worked for, what you could call the top firms in the absolute world, right? So you came absolute expert. What was the market need that you saw to do the thing that you do to create your own company?
Yeah, when I was at Google, I was a leadership recruiter at Google, and I was recruiting people for the search algorithm. And I thought there's really something special here. There's some magic going on. And what I thought other companies, and I'm correct in this, it is a bit of a tricky thing, but what I thought other companies could benefit from is having this Google-style hiring system, the interviews, the ability to find really good people, get them qualified first, and then start team matching, get that kind of a system into the market and let other companies actually access that kind of capability. So I had that idea, and I left Google. I went over to Meta because I was very curious, because actually Meta was better at recruiting than Google was. Google is amazing. I'm a huge Google fan. I deeply believe in the force of good that is Google as an institution.
Mm-hmm.
As a company, when we're talking about money, that's a very different thing. Money can corrupt things, can make stuff be a little bit evil sometimes. But yeah, Google as an institution is amazing. Meta and Mark Zuckerberg, brilliant man, someone who, after working there, I actually came to respect a lot. Meta, they copied everything that Google did well.
Mm-hmm.
And then they cut out all the bureaucracy, the notorious 3 months of interviews and the bureaucracy of going through hiring committee and everything else at Google. They cut it all out, and they just interview people, and in a week you get an offer at Meta. But they do it exactly as well as Google, and they added a few other things too. So I'm really glad. That was a very good judgment call on my side. I have to pat myself on the back. Leaving Google and going into Meta so that I could actually see it. And I was recruiting at Meta. I was recruiting research scientists for artificial intelligence. So I also happened to just be able to get to know and talk to some of the brilliant people that are creating the world around us. So that was a sort of a journey. I guess my journey through life, sometimes I have things concurrently happening around me. And there's not always a plan, but that's okay. That's good. You don't always have to have a plan. Strategy is not necessarily the best thing. You need to do something really, really, really well, and then you can scale it out from there. So my inspiration for Olympia was exactly that. I took what I learned at Google about how to create a kind of nucleus within a company where you have very intelligent people that are really good at doing their job. So at Olympia, we use ex-Google engineers to conduct interviews. And we do that not out of snobbery. And we're very, very aware that can be very snobby very quickly. But we have ex-Googlers conduct interviews and do what we knew at Google, to excellent engineer judging someone else's skills in an interview. And we can get into how that looks a little later. But that, candidates really, really want to be judged, best candidates especially, the best candidates really want to be judged based on their capabilities. And be judged for their work. People that are ready to enter the arena, they want to enter the arena, and we put them in the arena. And we don't have recruiter calls. We look at people, make very high level judgments on their career, not based on the companies they've worked at or the schools they went to. We never do that. We look for people that seem like they're good, hard workers, people that are at companies for long periods of time. Although we are very forgiving, we research and we look to see if someone may have been part of a layoff. We're very forgiving for that. It's okay to be fired, it's okay to be laid off. But we want people that are hard workers. And other than that, we judge them based on their interview. So we put them directly into an interview with an ex-Google engineer. And that it just magic happens. The best candidates are super engaged. They know their time is not going to be wasted. They know they're going to be judged for something proper, judged for whom they are, not for their resume or how well they talk to a recruiter, judged for their work. It just, it's expensive for us to do that, but it's actually very cheap and efficient at the same time, because 40% of candidates get back to us. They love interviewing with us. I always say that the person you need the most, or the person you want the most needs you the least as an employer. So that we get that person. We get the person that is the best person. We get them elegantly, cleanly, and simply. We get them quickly in front of an employer by just doing a really good job, doing the hard work right off the bat, and we cut the BS.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, it's just magic happens. Magic really does happen. It's quite remarkable.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And some of the best innovators out there, which I'm actually lumping you into that category, they take a strong stance on something, And so you're talking about this interview process and you're cutting out that 3 months of bureaucracy that Google had. So something I've heard you say is that AI is no longer optional in the interview process. So maybe this is a good time to walk us through how Olympia is using AI during the candidate assessments and what you've learned. What's your biggest takeaway?
Yeah. So, we I mean, we're very fundamental. We're fundamentalist. Googlers are the Julia Childs of tech workers. We believe you go back to fundamentals, and you do it right. You do the base stuff right. Everything else, the ingredients are good. You do it right, and then it's just this marvelous dish. It doesn't have to be complicated. Elegance is simple. With AI, this is an interesting one, because when we look at our interviews, we didn't want AI coming into our interviews. I mean, we've experimented, by all means, we experiment, but we got a result with tests and AI interviews that we expected, which is everyone turns into a sociopath when working with a robot, as you should be a sociopath when working with a robot. And if you treat candidates like cattle, they will treat you like cattle. And good. That's what they should do. So, you have to respect a human being. And so we really were finding that we didn't want AI to do anything in terms of making a judgment call. Because of course, if a robot can identify the best, one of the best potential future employees for you, why are you not just hiring the robot? Obviously, the robot is therefore capable of doing the job instead. So you need to go back and rethink your job description. If that's not the case, right? Because it's probably not. You need to rethink the job description and rethink your interviews and what are you going to do. So we have human interviews, but we have had to come to the conclusion, in part, this was forced on us because of so much cheating. We had to come to the conclusion that candidates using AI in an interview can't be optional. Like, some people were saying, no, I don't want to use AI, and some people probably didn't, and they were brilliant. But then we were just seeing, like, we do forensics with different AI platforms to see, like, certain questions at certain points, what would the response have been, and then we can forensically see that someone was cheating. And yeah, people are cheating. And so now we say, that's it. You have to use AI. You must screen share with us. You have to use AI, because if you say you don't, first of all, that's not how the modern economy works. You have to use AI. And second of all, we've just had too many problems with cheating. People say they're not using it, and they are. So now we make everyone use it. What that looks like, I think maybe this is the question you're going to follow up with, probably. What does AI in an interview look like? I mean, we let them choose. We do not know the answer. We don't know. So we let them choose whatever they want to do. I'll let you, I'll stop for a second though and see if you have a.
Yeah, I mean,
Got you
it, it,
there.
it sounds like a very responsible way. You say, hey, there's this tool that everybody uses, and we know that everybody's using this tool. We might as well see how you're using it, you know?
Yep, exactly. So let's say, for instance, someone is comfortable using GitHub Copilot.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. That's very different from using Gemini and ChatGPT to generate code. What we are finding, and we're very transparent with candidates about this, what we're finding is the best engineers
Mm-hmm.
are the ones who know when to hit the brakes. So they're the ones judgment. I mean, human judgment has always been a very big thing, but in the past, especially with our interviews, are very problem solving focused. Being industrious, conscientious, meaning you can get something done. You've given 45 minutes, so we want to, within that context, get this done. A full in the box, like steps 1 to 10. Don't make your scope too big with the time and resources that you have. Industriousness was always a really big component, so how your efficacy meaning how quickly can you work? Can you get high quality work done quickly? That was important. That is no longer that important because you can get really high quality work done with AI very, very quickly. Now what we're seeing is judgment is suddenly becoming the thing.
Yeah.
People that are able to say no, be like Chanel, take something off before you leave the house. And someone who can say no, I'm not going to use that. So rather than doing 100x more in the interview, the person that does 10x more because their judgment says, I'm not quite sure if this code within the context of this interview, I don't know if this code is that's a little bit too much. So I can't read it over that quickly. And I just want to do this right. So we're going to do a little bit less, quite a bit less.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to look at the code. And then, our interviewer will say, okay, so why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Why are you taking that from AI, that data structure or whatever it is? Why do you think that's the best choice? Why do you think AI gave you that? What do you think the alternatives could have been? And that kind of stuff is important for us to understand their thinking behind it. And it's a judgment call. The candidate has to walk us through that. Like, yeah, I'm looking at this in this data structure. I'm going to change this, this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
Or you know what? No, that's fine. This is good. What could have been done is XYZ. What I may have done is, whatever, ABC.
Yeah.
But AI actually gave me a recursive solution, meaning like something that's, asks the algorithm, an algorithm, if it can ask itself a question that's recursive, so it doesn't have to go into a different part of the processor.
Yeah.
That's a very elegant, good solution for instance. So that kind of stuff, an engineer has to have a judgment call there. And you can see that with all sorts of different jobs. It's not just engineering. It can be sales as well. It's like literally anything.
Mm-hmm.
There are ways that we are using AI, and we just want to find Olympia. We want to find people that are curious and are trying to tackle this as it's coming. We don't care about what you've done in the past because it's not only is that has never been important
Mm-hmm.
for problem solvers. I mean, what you've done in the past is probably evidence, right? But don't worry about that. See if they're a problem solver because you don't know. Some people just, get lucky and they're good at internal politics and they get promoted or whatever. But now it's like your experience is irrelevant because the things that you knew in the past are just, it's not that it's irrelevant. It's just that is not a good way to judge a candidate. Using your past experience to build up your own judgment of what the future looks like and what you're going to do, that's what we want to know.
Right.
2 years from now, this is all going to be different again. We want people that are able to navigate this and are showing us that they are curious, that they can navigate it, that they have judgment calls to hit the brakes.
Mm-hmm.
I always say about my Tesla, it's like I have a lead foot and I have had to learn with this Tesla. It's like, I know, it's like I do want to get rid of it and get a Rivian, but still for the record, still, it's like, I realized it's like, oh, wow, I have so much power now. That's industriousness, right? It's like I have so much power at my foot. I now need to not hit the pedal all the time and just fly. I really do need to be careful. And the same with AI using it, right? It's like I need to be the human with a judgment call when this is time to hit the brakes, literally, and turn off my autopilot. that is what we're seeing in jobs right now as well.
Yeah. And I think that's a really brilliant analogy. And I would like to piggyback on that and then flip this over onto the other side of it. So what you do with the hiring interview and with these candidates is brilliant. So now let's talk about, pressing the gas and hitting the brakes as far as your business and getting the right clients who need these candidates. So tell me a little bit more about the marketing and how, it's kind of a tough job market out there right now. It's kind of a rough market for everybody, for the entire world, with all the tariffs and everything going on. So how is it that you are able to acquire new clients or work with clients in a way that you're able to scale your own company?
It is difficult. And I'll be very frank and honest here. It's I am not the best salesman. I'm a technical kind of creative founder. What I'm finding works very well is forming partnerships with other recruitment companies who are really good at handling the internal politics of a client and are good salespeople. That human connection. That is so valuable to me. And, I can come with the magic of, Googlers, and I don't mean this in an arrogant way. It's just the truth. Googlers follow me. They like me. And I have that's a bit of a crown jewel that I carry around with me. But that crown jewel has to be placed on something. It's like it has to be placed in a crown and then on a head. So I'm finding that partners are really the best way for me to do this. And I think going forward, that's probably what Olympia is going to be doing, is forming partnerships with recruiting firms, and those recruiters can handle the relationship. We go out and get the candidate because the candidates love us. They talk to us. We get the best people in real fast, real quick. And then these interviews are extraordinarily valuable to the clients. But yeah, I mean, building out a relationship, that is something that it has turned out to be very tricky, and I think is probably not the best use of our time and our energy, and also maybe not useful for us to have these dualities of this, like, nerdy kind of up in the cloud, like, electricity and magic of Olympia, together with a hard recruiting sales kind of environment. I mean, those two worlds don't go well together.
Yeah. Well, they might not go well together. So if there were like a problem that you could solve with this outreach, you've definitely listed a few things that are possibilities, but say there was that mystical, magical cloud, that you were able to just like, okay, hey, magical cloud, solve this one problem, right? What would that one problem be as far as your company, as far as growth? What would be the best thing that would help you solve that growth problem?
Literally, recruitment company CEOs coming to me and saying, "Hey, let's do a partnership."
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah.
Done. That is what I need.
Yeah.
That's what I need.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's so interesting because a lot of us are so niche brilliant at a thing that we do, right? And then we sometimes, because I spent a lot of time working in marketing, and what I tell people is like, you're marketing yourself. Like every moment of the day, you're marketing yourself to a person that you interact with in the grocery store. You're marketing yourself to your lover. You're marketing yourself to your spouse. You're marketing yourself to your boss. You're marketing yourself to new clients, to these people who are potentially going to work with you. Even the Googlers who follow you because they enjoy like you as a thought leader. You're marketing yourself to them. And we have these different personas. So we can suck at marketing, but we're always marketing. And that's like kind of the unfortunate dilemma that every single one of us is faced with. And like a brilliant friend of mine said, he sold his company for a pretty penny, and he said, the way that I did it is he owns an M&A firm now, but he originally sold his company for quite a bit of money. He said, every time I learned something and got good at it, I then learned how to hire somebody to replace myself. And he said, and then when I was at the top and I had the company all worked out and it didn't belong there anymore, I sold it. The reason that it might be good at some point to consider replacing yourself at your own company is I heard that you might be running for Congress. Is that true?
It's possible.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, fantastic. Anything more that you could reveal about that right now, or is this we're saving this for a big reveal, grand reveal?
Well, I won't go into the state that I'm considering. There's a few reasons for that, but we don't need to go into that. The world is, I do not want to be in Congress right now, to be fair. And it's always been a dream of mine to get into Congress. Is really why I started Olympia, so that I could fortify myself and not have donors shave off all my edges. Because I worked for Hillary Clinton. I was in the finance team and one of the main inspirations behind Peyton Hobart, and the politician when I ran for state senate in Manhattan. Yeah, I mean, donors will shave off your edges. So I wanted to create Olympia to fortify myself. The last 6 months, the fever broke. I think maybe I'm too soon on saying this, but I really think that everything that has happened with, I mean, woke liberalism and MAGA, just like the craziness around it. We're trying to communicate a real, genuine anxiety that the society has because we are being used. It's very true. And that had, I think that was being communicated by society and democracy in a very dumb way.
Mhm.
And I think we can all admit that to ourselves. And I just didn't. And the donors as well, like they just thought that they could be, that we're all puppets, and we're all these marionettes in there, and they're just controlling us. They are now realizing slowly that ain't going to work, because the middle class in this country, like, the guillotines will come out, and that might be a literal thing, and I don't mean that in like oh yeah, violence. It's just like, I think they're finally realizing, like, almost all guns that have ever been owned or made ever in history, a majority of them are held by civilians in the United States of America. I mean, more guns than people in this country. 1% of the guns in this country are held by the military, and the 99% are held by the people. So it's like, this is like not a joke when they're really starting to realize that they have messed with something here, and this isn't good. This is not okay. And like I said, I don't mean that as like to incite violence or anything. It's just that I Mangione, I think that the response to him
Mhm.
has been utterly shocking to a lot of wealthy people. And I thought, that's how out of touch you were. You don't
Yeah.
understand just how angry people are. There's a book, my favorite book, Honeybee Democracy.
Mhm.
Honeybee Democracy, effectively Thomas Seeley, remarkable scientist, and what he discovered, and it goes into great detail in this book.
Mhm.
Read this book. If you have anxiety about how the world works, read Honeybee Democracy. It is amazing. And effectively, what he found is that honeybees, when swarming, splitting their hives and taking a huge risk and trying to go out and find a new home, they effectively do an Iowa caucus. And through convergent evolution, the United States of America has built a democracy that works almost identically to
Wow.
honeybees,
Okay.
and they don't communicate with each other, but they're, directly through articulation, but literally through vibes, literally vibrating. They communicate, and our democracy right now is communicating with a vibe, and it's, the people cannot articulate exactly what they want,
Mhm.
but the swarm is moving. The swarm is looking for a new home, and it's going to rebuild a new hive, and they are armed with stingers,
Mhm.
and they are industrious and have their heads down, but they will use those stingers if they need to. Their vibes are communicating, and they are making a decision. So, and I think that I have some unique perspective on what's going on. I took over the algorithms, some of the algorithms at Google, got in a big fight with some of the executives, and I won. And you don't F with the executives at Google. I did. I won, and I won repeatedly. So I know how this system works. And those people respect me a lot. And it may be finally now, right now, the time that we are going to move this swarm. That, we're swarming, and we're going to find a new home, and we're going to rebuild this economy from ground up on our 250th birthday. So I'm really, opportunity and threat. We're taking a risk, but it has to happen. These bees got stingers, and they don't want to use them, but they will if they have to.
Yeah. It sounds like this is your legacy work, and it sounds like I'm just so grateful that you're able to share this on the podcast and
Yeah.
about your company, but then also about how the company supports your legacy. So I'm just so excited to see you grow, and yeah, please keep in touch.
Yes,
Let us know how that develops. We
I
would love
have.
to know about that.
I will absolutely, you absolutely can come back and interview me after I have been more specific with my announcement. And there's also some big things in the way this campaign is going to work. It's not going to be, I'm one of the inspiration behind Peyton Hobart. And in fact, it's possible I am the main inspiration behind Peyton Hobart. And the way this campaign is going to work is going to be different.
Yeah.
You're going to be very interested in it, and you are very welcome to interview me again in the future.
Yeah, cool. Daniel, again, thank you so much for being on the podcast. We really appreciate your insight. Super exciting, and I can't wait to read that book also.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great day.
You too.